Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead Aherne. Today's top stories. It's expected that people will be allowed to move anywhere within their own county from Monday. This is the fifth week in a row that Waterford has recorded fewer than 10 new coronavirus cases. A Waterford TD says discussions on the South East Technological University are going in the right direction. And in sport, the GAA will issue its roadmap for a potential return to play this evening. People will be allowed to travel anywhere within their county under a further easing of lockdown measures from Monday. It goes beyond the planned extension of movement to 20 kilometres. Our political correspondent Sean Defoe reports.
Cabinet ministers met this morning and approved new measures to take effect from Monday that will allow people to move anywhere within their own counties. The original plan for phase 2 was that people would be allowed to move 20 kilometres away from their homes, but there was concern that for people in more isolated rural areas that would mean little change from the last phase. It's understood the government's also approved scrapping the movement limit entirely from the end of June, while there has been proposals to examine opening pubs and hotels earlier than planned in order to allow them to try to make some benefit of the summer season. Those are among the major deviations from the roadmap or plan originally announced. People will be allowed to go into each other's homes from Monday in small socially distant groups. It's expected playgrounds will reopen and that there will be announcements on summer camps and visitation to nursing homes. A full announcement on the roadmap moving to phase 2 will come this afternoon.
12 counties, including Waterford, have recorded no deaths linked to COVID-19 in the last week. New figures also show healthcare workers continue to make up nearly a third of all cases. Josh Crosby has more details.
The latest information on COVID-19 deaths across the country show the number of people who have died or have been diagnosed has fallen for the sixth week in a row. 12 counties recorded none in the last week and 13 have recorded less than 5. New figures published today by the CSO show Dublin, Cork, Galway and Kildare were the only counties to record more than 20 new cases in the last week of May, while 5 counties, Donegal, Kerry, Leitrim, Sligo and Wexford, had no new cases in the last week. This is the fourth week in a row that Kerry and Donegal have recorded less than 10 new cases and the fifth week for Waterford.
There was a slight increase in the number of coronavirus patients at University Hospital Waterford last night. There were 2 confirmed cases on site as of 8 o'clock. A further 5 suspected cases were awaiting the results of COVID testing. There were no confirmed or suspected cases in intensive care. The General Manager of Home Instead Senior Care in Waterford says the return to work may be an anxious time for some people. More businesses are due to reopen from Monday, meaning that people who had been caring for older members of their family since March may not be in a position to do so anymore. Stephen Tubbert says many people took on the care of relatives who were isolating.
I suppose returning back to work, they won't be possibly on the other end of the phone because they'll be busy in their jobs. So I suppose it's very, very important that there's, a plan, a care plan looked at, I suppose, in detail and what's needed over the day. And they start thinking about it now, I suppose, the important thing, rather than, that Monday morning when they return back to work.
He says older people are spending so much more time at home now.
Loneliness and social needs are, especially now with days, a lot of day centres are closed, churches are currently closed. People, they may go to Mass for 45 minutes or 50 minutes a day. That's now stopped. And they can't pop to their local post office. So I think, when we think about it, deep down, it's hugely, and again, like I said, a neighbour just to pop in, say hello over the gate, over the wall, it would mean so much to the elder people.
The COVID emergency unemployment payment has been extended until phase 5 of the lockdown exit plan, while the temporary wage subsidy scheme will last until the end of August. From the 29th of June, the COVID unemployment payment will become 2-tier. Anyone who had been earning less than €200 a week before losing their jobs will move to a €203 a week payment. Anyone else will remain on the €350 payment. Finance Minister Paschal Donohoe says the payments will continue over the next few months.
The extraordinary level of support that is in place now can't last forever. But equally, the unprecedented shock that many businesses, big and small, all over our country have experienced will take some time to resolve.
President Michael D. Higgins says a sense of solidarity around the country is still with us despite over 2 months of COVID-19 restrictions. In an address, he has commended people's community spirit throughout the duration of the pandemic. He's praised groups who have to continue to give support to vulnerable people and those who are cocooning. President Higgins says they've made an enormous difference.
The actions of thousands of people like your good selves over these past several weeks have shown that this sense of solidarity is still very strong across Ireland. You and all who have been working with you over the past weeks and months have answered the call of your communities. You have made an enormous difference and are continuing to perform a vital service as we slowly emerge from the dark of the pandemic.
Waterford Deputy David Culnan says discussions on the future of the South East Technological University held this morning are going in the right direction. Local Oireachtas members and the presidents of both WIT and IT Carlow held a virtual meeting to discuss the process. The application from Waterford Institute of Technology and IT Carlow is yet to be submitted. It's after the Memorandum of Understanding agreed by management was rejected by unions in Carlow a year ago. Sinn Féin's David Culnan told Damien Tiernan on Daysha today that there's still a frustration with the process.
It was a positive meeting, and I have to say the two presidents are on the same page, but there was a frustration from the Oireachtas members that of all of the consortiums that were put in place in terms of technological universities, that we still seem to be behind the curve, and that what we were looking for was to try and once and for all get to the nub of what the problems are.
He says there is a plan to deal with WIT's €7 million deficit.
Obviously, if an institute is carrying a deficit, it is going to be a concern to another institute that is being asked to merge. Both boards and I suppose the boards of both of the institutes have their own concerns in relation to all of this and how it will work out. I got a sense today from both presidents that they can deal with and they will deal with that deficit issue. There is a plan in place. Waterford has been working to reduce that over the last number of years and has reduced the deficit, by the way, so it was higher, and that it has the capacity.
The latest round of post-Brexit trade talks have ended without significant areas of progress, according to the EU's chief Brexit negotiator. Michel Barnier says he doesn't think the two sides can go on like this forever. A high-level summit will take place later this month in the wake of the latest round of talks, with both sides strongly critical of the other's negotiating tactics. Michel Barnier says there are also issues outstanding in relation to proposals on the Irish border.
We also continue to be extremely vigilant with regard to the correct implementation of the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland. The UK Common Paper published on the 20th of May is useful, but there are still a lot of details to be settled if we want to move from aspiration to operation.
The organisers of an anti-racism vigil, which was due to take place in Waterford tomorrow, say it had to be cancelled for public safety reasons. Waterford Against Racism, together with several other organisations, had planned to hold an event on the quay following the killing of George Floyd in the US. Speaking on Damien Tiernan on Daysha today, Seamus O'Brien from Waterford Against Racism says they consulted with local Gardaí and realised that social distancing would be impossible to maintain.
The numbers attending the event was starting to grow beyond the level that we would have been able to steward. It wasn't so much about the social distancing along the quay. It was when the crowd started to disperse that they would possibly form into groups and we'd have no control over that. That was ultimately the decision that caused us to cancel it.
WLR Sport, Ireland's local station of the year.
Starting with Gaelic Games, where the GAA will issue its roadmap for a potential return to play this evening. It's expected pitches with perimeter walkways will be allowed to reopen next week. Training could also be brought forward a phase to the end of June. However, inter-county action will not return until October at the earliest, with a month of training beforehand. Aaron Cunningham, the former Crossmaglen Rangers star, says the GAA have missed the boat when it comes to speaking out against racism. The Crossmaglen man was racially abused during an Ulster club final in 2012, leading to an opposition player being banned for 6 months. Cunningham says the GAA have been too slow to adapt to Ireland's multiculturalism.
And I still feel that the GAA missed the boat a little bit in terms of their reaction to it. You're going to have to look in 5 years' time. You look down the list of players that are going to be playing inter-county football, and they're going to have surnames from Eastern Europe and Africa.
Dan Shanahan says he's honoured to make the top 25 in the search for Waterford's greatest sporting hero. An expert panel have compiled the final list and people are being asked to vote on WLORFM.com. Dan Shanahan's the all-time leading goal scorer for the Waterford Hurlers and won 3 All-Stars during his career. He spoke to Damien Tiernan on Daysha today.
I'm delighted, to be honest with you, when you think of the people that I'm nominated with. It's unbelievable. Some of the top sports people of different generations of their sport, and to be involved with top 25. It's brilliant, Damien. So it is, and totally honoured to be even mentioned with some of these people. And, you know, it's kind of something I don't agree with, if you know what I'm saying, but because I came from a team-based background again, but again, to be nominated with some of these people, that's the John Keys, the John O'Shea's, John Tracy's, oh my God, like, you know, it's unbelievable. List goes on, as you said, like, you know.
In soccer, the Premier League has confirmed the first 3 rounds of fixtures for when matches restart on the 17th of June. Aston Villa's home game against Sheffield United will be the first Premier League fixture. That'll kick off a couple of hours before Manchester City face Arsenal. Fixtures will all be behind closed doors and televised, many of them free to air. WLR asking you to stay at home. Our next bulletin is at 2.